Camera. All right, there we go. All right, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How everybody feeling today?
All right, we are good to go, my friend.
Okay. So I wanted to say, let me start off saying, welcome to Tea with the Commish. It's great to see some very emerging leaders on the Zoom this morning. So I actually got my team. I'm going to run it all day. We're going to start this off with talk about childhood safety. Right now, we know that gun violence is on the rise with our youth. We encourage Detroiters and Michiganders for those parents to properly secure your firearm when children are in the household. Right now, we're asking families to pick up a gun safety lock. These locks are free. Walk into your nearby police precinct and just ask for a gun safety lock. Instructions come inside, very easy to use. Commissioner Bill Davis, I know you talked earlier this week as well about how we need to protect our youth. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. I see there's some audio distortions on this.
Bill Davis, are you still with us?
Yeah, yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. This is the police commissioner in District 7, the Honorable William Davis. Commissioner Davis, you got the floor. Let's talk about childhood safety, how we can protect our youth and children in the house.
Hello?
Yes, you have the floor, Commissioner Davis.
Okay, this is a bad connection. Whatever, the audio is messed up.
Okay. What about Brandon Brice, the People's Champ, 928 People's Station? We're talking about childhood safety, how we can protect our youth when they're in a household. We know that a lot of parents right now feel like, why should they have to lock up their gun? Let's talk about why they should lock up their gun and how locking up their weapon with the gun safety lock, how it can not only save a life.
Well, Willie, I'm gonna go a little bit in a different direction. As someone who grew up with guns in their household, I don't just think locking up a gun is the answer, as is educating kids on gun safety and how to properly use a gun. See, the problem is we don't want to teach our kids how to use a firearm. And they use it irresponsibly, and we sit back and say we need to get rid of guns. That's not the solution. Growing up, I was not only taught, but I was trained how to use it. And I was also trained of the dangers and safety around gun safety. So that needs to be the direction, is not only making sure that guns are safe and out of kids' harm's way, but also people need to take the time to communicate with their kids about gun safety.
Well,
absolutely.
Gun safety is very important here. I feel like we got a lot of feed on here. Is Scotty Bowman around? Scotty on? It sounds like firearm safety is needs to be taught here in the city of Detroit. But more importantly, we do have to have parents to be responsible. Secure your weapon when children are in the household. No child should have access to a gun. It was just 4 years ago, ladies, gentlemen, our listening audience, is that 5-year-old Mariah Davis got a hold of her grandparents' gun, fatally shot and killed herself. This was 4 years ago. Last year, 8 children were involved in gun violence. No child should have access to a gun. Parents, if you have a gun in your house, use a gun safety lock. Instructions are inside. Go to your nearest police station and say, hi, I need a gun safety law. I need a lockbox. One will be provided for you, ladies and gentlemen. But my good friend, the people's champ, Brandon Brice, 910 AM Super Station, he said we need to get back to the basics. And we need to start talking about firearm safety, gentlemen. You know, I believe the NRA has a lot of programs pertaining to firearm safety. One of them is, I want to believe, is the Eagle. What is it? The Desert Eagle? What's the Eagle? What's the program that the NRA has? Brandon Brice. I know that they have a lot of different programs where they talk about firearm safety. That's correct.
You know, Willie, I don't know all of the programs that they have, but what I do know is that, you know, the NRA, for better or worse, should not be feared in the sense that a lot of their, you know, when we talk about public safety, and I think the challenge is the organization has unfortunately and sadly become politicized, but you know, when we talk about safety, not just from kid safety, but we also need to talk about the fact that, and even the police chief of Detroit said, police can't be everywhere. So how are we protecting, you know, I don't want to necessarily just think about young folks, but think about how are we protecting senior citizens and single women with children who live in vulnerable neighborhoods. They need to be protected. But then the other factor of that is when we look at police safety going back, I'm not against lock boxes. I think that they work. But then the question is, you know, are we going to subsidize these for every Detroit citizen that wants one? I mean, things cost money. And so how are we going to get it in the hands of those who need it most?
That's correct. That's a very good point. You know, right now in the city of Detroit, you know, they have, you know, they seem to have money for things that like facial recognition, shot spotter, that's costing $400,000. When a gun safety lock only costs $5. We need to be producing more of these, getting these in the hands of Detroiters, getting these in the hands of licensed firearm holders, telling them to secure their weapon. But we're going to get into some other different topics too. You know, Brandon Brice, you talk a lot, you know, you have a lot of different people on 910 as your guests. You know, we have talked about ShotSpotter. We talked about facial recognition. How do you feel about, are you a fan for technology? Not to say that you're a fan for these sorts of technologies, but are you a fan of technology?
So, you know, Willie, there's a double-edged sword to that. I am a fan of technology when it advances people. The challenge I have with technology is if you look at kind of what's going on with, I've been a big advocate against the whole big tech industry, against facial recognition. When technology becomes used for something that harms people versus helps people, that's when we need to get involved and get serious about it. You know, right now, and this is not necessarily a big deal to some people, but when you think about, you know, big tech and the fact that now social media is starting to monitor what you say, how you say it, and when you say it, and who you say it for, that's a dangerous slipping slope when you start talking about making sure that technology is always in the best interest of pushing man's agenda forward and not hindering people. You know, one thing I got to give you accolades to is facial recognition. There's implicit bias even in technology. When you start looking at who's being targeted or who's being targeted for either what they say or what they look like. I mean, there's been countless times on Facebook that people that technology on Facebook will wrongfully recognize you as someone else. But what happens is now that technology who misrecognizes you now can be something like, you know, arresting you off the basis of implicit bias or just being dead wrong. So I think technology really needs to be, I mean, that's our new policy topic Commissioner Burton, is really around making sure technology always is in the best interest of man, and that it is not, should not, and does not become a tool for indicting people wrongfully. And I think we're on a slippery slope to that today.
You know, I agree with you on that as well. You know, I think a lot of members in our community does support technology, but we feel like technology is actually growing in the Black and brown community at an alarming rate, especially when it comes to big data being collected. And so, you know, you, I, and Commissioner Davis are big fans of protecting citizens' rights when it comes to civil liberties. You know, I'm not a fan of facial recognition, but some members in the community feel like if it came down to facial recognition and that was a tool, you know, many feel that they would not want it. Some feel like they want it. But, you know, we saw that out in California, San Francisco, they actually shut down facial recognition. I think they was the first city to step up and say, we don't want it. And then you saw Berkeley stepping up and also say, we don't want facial recognition. But, you know, now a lot of law enforcement agencies are looking at facial recognition. They also looking at other programs like ShotSpotter. But you know,
Willie, here's the, so first of all, when you talk about the state of California, not the city of California, we talk about the state of California. You know, well, first thing is, you know, it obviously makes their jobs easier because it's the watchdog. It's the eyes everywhere that can see everything. So I mean, it makes sense from law enforcement. The challenge is who's watching the people watching you. And I think that has to be the next question is, you know, when we start talking about facial recognition and targeting people, it reminds me of that film Minority Report that says essentially, you know, what if we were able to stop crime before it happens? But then the question becomes, is it a crime if it didn't occur? So there's a lot of factors when you talk about, you know, I go back to the implicit bias because when you look at those in technology, minorities, specifically African Americans, are not highly represented when it comes into coding and software and development. But if these people are the ones making the type of technological efforts when it comes to facial recognition and targeting using virtual technology, then we've got a bigger problem because that goes back to that implicit bias once again.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Davis, would you like to weigh in?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. You know, our people have not been properly represented as it relates to the development of a lot of these programs and technologies. And our people are not the ones that it's really designed for. You know, they designed it for so that the average 30-year-old white guy, you know, those are those people that they got in their little circles, and those are the people that they testing it on. And they it's almost like sometimes here they want to use our people as guinea pigs so they can improve the process. I'm wholeheartedly against that. We should never have not even one Black man, Black woman, Black teenager being incarcerated for something that they did not do because they was misidentified. That's unacceptable.
You know, one of the things here, Commissioner Davis, in the city of Detroit, we haven't really had anyone from the university level to really speak out. We have heard of things only coming from law enforcement saying why they want the technology, but I mean, we want to see more of someone from the academic level. We wanted to hear from, you know, more from the ACLU, which have been vocal in our community on issues. But, you know, we want to hear more public forums.
I think the academics are basically have always been against this because they know it's not reliable. We have a lot of people, in fact, some of the people that come and speak against this are people that have, you know, advanced degrees and have a better understanding of the fact that this has been biased towards people of color, you know, especially towards Black women. We cannot advocate and use our resources to do something that's going to discriminate against us. That's illogical.
You know, right now, here in the city of Detroit, you have cameras at almost every intersection. Where does this data goes? How far does it go back? Now you got microphone sensors are popping up in our community in the city of Detroit now, where there's case studies against able to pick up even some sensitive conversations, and the two case studies that we have reviewed. I'm hearing reverb through this. Anyone knows who's that?
Commissioner Burton, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'll tell you this. If I were on city council in Detroit right now, I would be the loudest advocate for privacy rights that this council had ever seen. Because when you think about data, this is not only new to the African American community, but data is being used in every way, shape, facet, or form. And the challenge is that you're not being paid, compensated, nor informed of the data that is being used against you. And so when you talk about privacy rights, this is a big deal. This is a serious issue. And it's really it should be a nonpartisan issue, because you're talking about the fact that you're being, with facial recognition, this is something that people are literally using as a means to determine that streets are safer. But the challenge is, when you talk about facial recognition, I go back to what I said before, we are not represented in the software development of that technology. So not only is it implicit bias, but also when you talk about privacy rights in your data is literally information about you. Now, why is that important? Because if someone is sharing your data and you're not being informed or compensated for your data, then to me, it almost seems like people are benefiting without you knowing it. Even Andrew Yang, the guy that ran for president, even talked about the fact that people, if your data is being shared to make revenue or to profit someone else, you should get a cut of that information. Mm-hmm. And if you're not getting a cut of that information, that's highway robbery.
Yes. And Big Brother is getting it's getting bigger every day with us. Like say, we cannot trust that all the people in government is going to do what's right for everybody, because that's never been the case. And I don't think it's going to be the case anytime soon.
Talking about Andrew Yang, he actually hung in a little longer than Tom Steyer, the other billionaire, right? In that presidential race.
He did, because he had the reality is he had a message. And I think, one of the challenges that I have with a lot of these people running for public office is they're running on name recognition, they're running on what sounds good, but the bottom line comes down to, what is your message? What are you talking about? And I think right now, we've got a situation where, we got a new president, whether you supported him or not, but the reality is, we've got a very delicate economy right now, especially Michigan. And so the question is, the next 100 days for Biden is not only going to be one of political influence, but it's also going to be, he's got a fragile economy to work with, specifically for cities like Detroit, which was just starting to kind of come back before COVID. Cities like Cleveland, cities like New Orleans and Baltimore. It comes down to, what is the plan and how is data going to be used at the federal level to target areas that are most hardest hit? And I'm talking about outside of COVID-19, these people, how do we use data to talk about disparities when it comes to local economies, when it comes to disparities when we talk about education, to know where we need to target and what are the areas we need to focus on? How do we use data to talk about the disparities and lack of representation and things like skilled trade work? And just dealing with some harsh realities. Everybody's not going to college, Commissioner Burton. So for those folks who say, I don't want to go to college, is there a plan B and plan C for them? Is there a plan for the armed services? Or is there a plan to start or to become a skilled tradesman or an entrepreneur? The bottom line is data shouldn't just be used to harm or indict. Data should also be used to uplift and to empower.
I like that. I like that. Great statement, great words. You know, you sound so poetic, man. You know, you it's like a poetry, man. Have you written any books? Are you looking to write any books? What's in the future for Brandon Brice?
I write and I tell people, you know, I try to empower and uplift. I think as Black people, we are in a state of confusion because we're trying to be political in a business world. And so my question is, how do we get more of our people really engaged in economic empowerment to the point where, and I'm sure my fellow commissioner, Brother Davis, will also say, I am all about empowering small Black businesses. That should be our number one priority, is how do we get people to become their own destiny seekers and destiny chasers.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely know both of you guys very well, and both of you are voracious readers. But Brandon Brice, you are one of our emerging leaders, you know, not only here in the city of Detroit or across Michigan, but your name is known worldwide.
But as long as I don't owe anybody any money, I'll take that.
We have Greg Dunmore, entertainment journalist with PulseBeat Media, that's on with us. Welcome, Greg.
Welcome. So great to be part of this esteemed group of gentlemen at this point.
Now you and Commissioner Bill Davis got something in common. Y'all both like y'all green tea. I'm drinking black tea this afternoon, but last week I believe it was peppermint tea. Peppermint tea, and so now I'm doing the black tea. But you guys love y'all green tea. Tell me more about what's in your cup today.
Well, you know, it's funny when you said that we had something in common, I thought you were going to say that we are brothers by virtue of being members of the first African-American college fraternity, the Brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha. So I thought you were going to say that, but still. Moving right along, You know, green tea, it's really interesting that I, as part of my, what am I going to do to better myself in 2021, I said I'm going to cut out soda pop. And because of your influence, Willie, about healthy living and everything that you're advocating, I said I'm going to start to drink more tea. So I did research and I found out that green tea was a tea that really is good for your health, and it's tasty, and I like to turn it into an iced tea, and so I'm sipping on the tea right now. But guess what, brothers? I'm going to tell you this, that I just had a consultation with my doctor, and when I told her that I add green tea each morning to my healthy smoothie, she said, cut the green tea out because it has too much caffeine in it. So I don't know, there's a lesson there that it used to be the saying was, I think it was an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And then I read along the line that an apple has potentially some issues as well. So anyway, I love the green tea. I don't know about the caffeine, but I am applauding you for putting a spotlight on the importance of how we can come together, having a conversation and drinking something that is not going to make us being sent to a rehab. So from that standpoint, I embrace the tea in the conversation.
Well, thank you very much, Greg Dunmore, PulseBeat Media, who happens to be Alpha. You guys just actually had your Founders Day. Am I right, Greg Dunmore and Brandon Brice?
Yes, we did.
Wait, I just gotta say this. Tuesday, December 4th, 7 men woke up and said, enough is enough. And the rest is history. Ice cold.
Right, that's true.
Hey, You heard it from Brandon Brice.
But you know what I think? But you know what? If I can say this, we're alphas, but maybe we should start a new fraternity, and it would be the fraternity of men who are against, and then I'll put blank, 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 because I'm not going to use any 4-letter language in this form, but maybe we should have a fraternity, men who are against, and then you fill in the blank.
I'll tell you this, Greg, and that's actually a great idea. We almost need, and Brother Davis too, we almost need a fraternity on men against the foolishness.
Okay.
Start there.
I would rather see us saying that we're for something, like that we're for Black economic empowerment, that we're for making sure our dollars turn over more, that we're pro something.
I love that
one.
We gonna call it C5C.
C5C.
Cash for cash.
Right. Oh, what about wait a second. What about cash for colors?
Greg, you said that. I didn't say that, Greg. But I support it. I endorse it.
Okay.
Cash for colors.
That's the colored people.
I see we have Dennis Bryan on. Welcome, Dennis Bryan. How you doing, brother? See Dennis Bryan on the screen.
I don't see Dennis now.
Oh, he's not there anymore? What about Scotty Bowman? You still around? Okay. See him on the screen.
He's muted.
He's muted.
Oh, and also, excuse me, can I say this? And because our brother Scotty is on the line, when we do this fraternity, you can also become a member too, Scotty.
Scotty, you just light-skinned, my friend.
Yeah. So, well, just to talk about this, right now what's going on at the state capitol, you got a lot of parents, coaches, student athletes. They want to get in the game. You got NFL right now, which is a contact sport. Players on the field, but high schoolers, many of them have some, is competing for some Division I scholarships, and they want to show their talent on the field. Should high schoolers, students, athletes be able to play? What's your take on that, Brandon Brice?
Well, I think, and let me be very clear, because I've been very critical of the government, both the state and federal. I know Brother Dunmore knows because he listens to my show. I think we got to use common sense in 2021. Mm-hmm. It's a contact sport, but you're not right up on folks. And so I think, part of it is, how do we, do we demand that people still wear masks during games? Do we demand that, do we have to alter some of the rules? I mean, I think it really comes down to, some of the people have said the numbers have dropped. And so I just think we've got to use common sense when talking about how we deal with moving forward. Because, Willie, this is not just about sports. This is about life. I mean, this is about how do we move forward in our businesses? How do we move forward in athletics? How do we move forward with our social lives? Even the boardroom changes in terms of, now are people going to start demanding cleaner boardrooms and separation of seats, a seat between people. I mean, this is a reality. But then the other thing is, Willie, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but we got some nasty folks in the country, in this nation, around simple things like washing your hands, when you come out of the stall, or cleaning up after you finish eating. I mean, the things that we've always known to do, now it's a matter where we have to do it. And I just think that just comes from just being old school teaching of cleanliness and being thrifty.
Right, those are basically stuff that we should always be doing anyway.
Exactly. there was some discussion before we broke for a recess, Commissioner Davis, that we'll be working back in office January. I mean, right now we still working virtually from home. Do you see elected officials returning back to the workplace anytime soon?
I don't see elected officials really returning back to the workplace before March.
Okay. Let's do a reflect. Let's do a wrap up. Say each one of us get 1 minute. If you had a wish list, right, that you could see.
Also, before you go on, I see we have a young lady that just joined us too.
Okay. How you doing, Miss Lady? I can't see her. On the screen.
J Love is her name. J Love.
J Love.
J Love.
Yes.
This is the one and only J Love, who's been fighting on the battlefield, talking about prison reform. Welcome, J Love. How you doing?
Hi, greetings, everyone.
Pretty good.
Good afternoon, young lady. It's a pleasure to see you.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry I'm just getting on. I've been driving.
Yes. We know that you working very hard to ensure that those that are incarcerated are treated fairly. This got to be a discussion that we have to bring up next week. We definitely got to bring this up next week because you have been advocating for prison reform on so many different levels, but you also been advocating for them to get masks during the whole start of this pandemic. That's correct?
Yes, I was trying to, once it started, I was trying to bring attention to it, especially for the most vulnerable, because my son suffered from severe Crohn's disease. And so people with autoimmune diseases, they need the ability to wash their hands, be in a clean environment, have on a clean mask. So you're right, since April last year, I was advocating to bring attention to the conditions and that people be taken care of inside of our prison system. Fortunately, my son is home now, and so we're going to be taking care of his, health condition. But there's so many others that are elderly, sick, and just for people that's just there, they need a better environment in regards to sanitation and things in regards to the pandemic.
Now, when it comes to those that are incarcerated in Michigan prison, that will fall under the governor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I know you've been fighting this battle for a long time, trying to, see that they are treated fairly. So we're going to talk about that next week. That's going to probably be something we'll definitely bring up. I'm glad you joined us. Just to look at the time, we started at 12 o'clock. So we're going to probably do 30 seconds now because we know this time is going to expire very shortly. We're just going to have a 30-second wish list. If you could change one thing you want to see change, and if it could change like right now, what would it be in 30 seconds or less? We'll probably kick it off to you, Ms. J Love. What would be your wish list of something that could change right now?
I would like if we could change anything right now for those who are incarcerated. I just want to maybe bring more attention or have more attention bring to them. They're human. Just because they're in prison doesn't mean they're not human. And we need to look at those people who are aged out of crime and elderly and, do more to help relieve the population in our prisons so that a pandemic can't spread the way that it did. Over 60% of the people inside contracted coronavirus, and that is a lot. So that would be my wish list.
Sounds very good. Sounds like a very tall list, but it can be done with the governor. I hope someone from the governor's office is listening and watching. Wish list, 30 seconds. Commissioner Davis, District 7, the People's Commissioner.
Well, my wish would be that we as a people start thinking that we need other people to be moving ahead. If we turn over our dollars in our communities and kept our dollars in our communities longer, it'd be a great economic expansion. You know, we need to be making sure, you know, I'm not anti-white, but I am pro-Black. We need to make sure our businesses are doing well. Period.
Very, very well said. Very well said. Brandon Brice, the People's Champ, 9:10 a.m. Superstation, Bad Man, the Right Man, holds all titles. Tell me what your wish list. 30 seconds.
You know, I'm gonna take 29 seconds and 52 milliseconds. You know, I think we got to go back into my wish list is we get everybody healthy, we get everybody through this pandemic because we're still in a pandemic. But I think Detroit, this is a wake up call for Detroit, and I'm actually agree with. So you got a conservative and a liberal to agree on something, and that's money. I think Black folks in Detroit, and yes, I said Black folks, need to put all the social justice stuff aside and talk about how are we going to empower small businesses to keep them not only still in existence, but to keep them flourishing and empower them during this time of COVID because they're struggling. And how do we really create the next generation of entrepreneurs in Detroit? And that means large Black corporations and small Black corporations teaming together to do subcontract agreements so that everybody eats in the end. And I think we'll be successful.
You know, that's well said. I love it. You know, it actually can work. It actually can work. I mean, you know, look at Rosewood, you know, as a great example. So, you know, once again, my wish list is every parent that have children in the home, grab a gun safety lock, contact the Detroit Police Department, and just a simple request. I want a gun lock. That's it. And there's a shortage of, if there happens to be a shortage of locks, contact your MPO or contact your elected officials, and we'll try and get one for you. Until then, my friends, thank you very much for joining in with this edition, Tea with the Commish. We're going to continue these conversations. I hope to see everyone back next week. Until then, I salute you